Y'all, I am here with my beautiful friend Haya from the Netherlands. She has agreed to be interviewed today. We first met when we were working in a hostel in Port Stevens, Australia, and she's an artist and an animator. She now lives and works in Reno, Nevada with her husband John and their baby Oscar and their jokes. And she works for Envirolution while also being a full-time mom, or she's working and
yeah, that's the current situation where
Yeah.
I'm also having my 10-month-old at home while having to try and work. Yes.
Yes. You were telling me that before this, you just made 2 videos before while also putting Oscar down. So, are you ready to jump into questions?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Great, cool. So, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you ended up in your current job and living in Reno, Nevada.
Well, I met my husband, who is American. He was traveling in Europe, and we fell in love and I moved to the US. He's from Minnesota. I moved to San Antonio, Texas with him for his job. And then he got a job at the Gigafactory, the Tesla Gigafactory here in Reno. So we moved out to Reno, Nevada. And I was working as a freelance animator, both in San Antonio and back in Amsterdam. And I mostly wanted to have some more, like being a freelancer, I was kind of done with that, especially when I was getting pregnant and having babies and stuff. So I actually found this, and I wanted to stay in like design kind of work, but I wanted to work for a company that I cared about, not just like selling shoes. And I found this really awesome nonprofit here in Reno that we help the education system in Nevada. Actually, we're going to spread out all over, but right now in Nevada, in middle and high schoolers, helping teachers and students get more access to more like hands-on STEM education, career like explorations and stuff. So I do design for them. I make videos for them. I work on the website and
very cool.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah, if we go ahead and you like the interview, I might put a link to them in the video as well, so that people can learn more about what you do and see some of your work and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. Now I want to talk to you specifically about the coronavirus, because I think you and I were maybe talking about this before a lot of other people in the world were, and I think you were probably more aware of it than I was. And why is that?
Well, so Tesla's currently building the next gigafactory close to Shanghai, and my husband John was asked to. Well, he's working on a lot of stuff there, and we were asked to move there for like 3 months. And I talked to my job, and they agreed to it. We were just gonna go there. I was gonna work remotely from there. We're gonna bring the whole family to Shanghai for 3 months. This was. It was going on for a while, but it was like set that we were actually going to do it end of December, beginning of January. So at the end of December, I started like going on all these Shanghai expat forums and stuff, because I like to do research and I was moving to Shanghai. And someone posted this news article about pneumonia that some people with cases of pneumonia in Wuhan, China. Right. And I just remember thinking like our family is going to be worried because there's a crazy disease in China now, and they're already like nervous about us moving to China. So I sent it out, and then like we actually kept an eye on it, and so first there were 15 cases, and then John had to travel to China a few times, and the last time he went, when we left, we looked at, there were about 100 cases in Wuhan, and I think maybe there was 1 case in Shanghai then. We were concerned. We talked about going, and then we were like, well, it's just you, and like it seems like it's not that like dangerous for young people. So he went, and then like while he was there, this was right before Chinese New Year, and everyone started traveling around, it kind of exploded. So there were like, while he was there, it went from 100 to like 2,000 cases in 10 days. So
right.
Shanghai, China really started. That was like when they figured out, wait, we have to take this really serious. Everyone was wearing masks. He went back on the plane where like everyone was wearing masks, and like, it was kind of apocalyptic and scary, and I was very happy he was coming back.
Yeah.
And then it's also when we decided like we're not going to move to China now.
Yeah. Well,
go ahead.
Yeah,
sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just, I remember when I was home in December and we visited you and you were like, I think we're going to move to Shanghai. And you were kind of, you had a lot of thoughts about it, but I was like, that's very close to Australia. I'll just come over for a weekend. And I had actually was seriously kind of thinking about that in my plans for this year. And so I guess maybe I'd been thinking about Shanghai overall and then watching all this stuff and knowing that you guys are supposed to be moving there. And I remember wondering like in early February, are they going to go? And I almost didn't want to ask you about it because I felt like it might be kind of intense.
I think it's crazy how about this disease, how every week was a completely different situation. Like when in China, it was like when he left, it was 100. When he went to China, it was 100 cases, and then a week later, it was 2,000. People were freaking out over there. But in the U.S., no one had even most people who were like, what virus? And I was like saying, well, there's this really serious virus. And they're like, oh, it's fine. And then like 1 week later, there were a lot of people in China and it went to like other places. And like every week, people's opinions just kind of, it's crazy.
And how long, like did Tesla just make the call or did you guys tell Tesla or like when was it decided that like you guys are definitely not going?
It was kind of at the same time, I think.
Right. Yeah. Right, because you had your flights booked, I think, and you had your apartment.
We had an apartment. Yeah. We had everything ready. Yeah.
Right. And when all this was happening, and you're watching this, thinking about what your life was going to be like for the next 3 months while living in Shanghai, did you ever think that it was going to come to Nevada?
It's hard, like, to think back about what I was thinking because it changed so fast. Yeah. I think there were moments, like in the beginning, where I was like, "Oh, this is something that's happening in China." But then I remember when there was like 15 cases in Washington or something, I remember saying, it's gonna come here. Like we're already too far in now because I'd seen what happened to China. Was like, everyone was like, no. So I think I was still like, just like everyone else, a little slow on the uptake, but a little faster than everyone else because I had an eye on China, I guess.
It's kind of crazy, actually, because it's like if you guys had ended up going, you might be in a better situation.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying. Like, yeah, definitely.
Under control. And talk to me about what it's currently like in Reno. I know that John's working from home, you're working from home. Also, has everything shut down? You were showing me, you said you're really into numbers and the graphs, so you've been watching it here in your own town pretty closely.
Yeah, we're in total what is it called, shelter in place right now. Mm-hmm. So except for things that are essential, everything is closed, so groceries are open, they're saying like you can go to doctors but don't like go crazy. And we've been home for years. I think the first day we started like both working from home was March 13th, like Friday the 13th. And I mean, we're very grateful that we both have jobs but it's a struggle. Right. It's just
sorry, there's a motorcycle. Just a second. I thought I closed both windows. I don't want it to go ahead. All right, I think it's stopped.
That's okay. It's just very exhausting. Like you see all the people on the internet being like, "Oh, I started all these new hobbies and I cleaned out my closet." If you have a 10-month-old who can just figure out how to crawl, and also like if he naps for an hour, that's the time he can work. There's no free time in my life right now.
Yeah, I know.
Once he's in bed, I'm just exhausted.
Right.
But I mean, I feel a little silly talking about it, like complaining about it, because I know that there's like, especially here in the U.S., people losing their jobs and like.
Yeah, but I also think anybody that's going through lockdown with a small child or more than one small child, they're just like, it's funny to me when I just can't complain. Like I just cannot complain because having kids is like a completely different ballgame, I think.
Yeah, I think honestly everyone is probably allowed to complain because it's hard. It's actually like, just like the having the anxiety every day, and it's so exhausting, like thinking about other people, like you worrying about people with kids is like taking part. It's a different kind of difficult for everyone. And I also know that you're like a super social person, so I think for you not like being home by yourself all the time must be really hard.
Maybe I need a little child. So
I wish you could borrow him for a little bit.
I know, me too. I wish you could just send him over here. I could give you a little bit more, because I think you were saying that John is also working really super hard, and it's so sometimes you're taking on a little bit more of the work.
He's really stressed out, and he has like basically meetings, video calls the whole day. And at the beginning of the day, I am like, okay, from 11 to 1, I would like to work.
Oh my gosh. Are there any silver linings? Do you feel like you guys have like, is it nice to have him home? Is there some perks?
There's definitely, I mean, Oscar's going through like all these milestones right now, and we missed a few when he was going to daycare. He, like, his first time rolling over was at daycare, but he's crawling now. He's starting to pull up. He's really funny. He's starting to like, I feel like we really like, and especially John, he didn't get to see him that much, and he's really like, they're such good buddies now. And definitely.
So that's really beautiful.
Yeah. Also, he used to, when he was at daycare, he was always sick.
Right.
We would just go from one ear infection to like a cold to a hand-foot mouth. And so that's good about all this quarantining and washing your hands all the time. He's not been sick since. He's just getting teeth.
Yeah, that's good. You guys are staying healthy. Yeah, I heard the flu, just the regular flu in Australia, like the usual number of cases has dropped dramatically just because nobody is...
I think also maybe that's like even in other years, people now realize how much washing your hands and like disinfecting stuff helps with not getting sick. So I think maybe next year's people might get sick less.
I'm going to be like the hygiene generation.
My mother-in-law has always been like that. She would always give us hand sanitizer everywhere we go, and we always made fun of her. And she's like, finally, people are taking me serious.
I know, I've changed. I've never wiped down counters more and like doorknobs and like than I have. Lately. So it's
we all learned a little bit about germs. Yeah. I mean, I knew, but I never really took it that serious.
I want to talk a little bit about your family in the Netherlands, but first, just quickly to jump back to Reno, you mentioned there are some protests there?
Yeah, I think, there's definitely, and the protests are in Carson City because it's the capital. Okay. People go, and there's like the crazy, I think it's a really small percentage. It's like 100 people at the capital.
Right.
But they're like armed.
Are they?
And they're really mad that they can't go to. But I find it hard to like. I mean, it's not smart, and I have opinions about it. But also, people like losing their jobs. Yeah. And like feeling really, really hopeless because It's not a good thing to do, but I'm just saying that it's easy to judge when I'm like, I still have my job. And
No, you have made a good point. And I think one of the interesting things is because we now have so much time to think and if you've lost your job, it's easy to look for a reason and find a reason to be angry. But it's
if you were like a small business owner and you put all your money and livelihood in a business and it just like disappears.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people, I mean, just in my own family and people that I've seen, like friends on Facebook, they're still waiting for money. There's supposed to be money that's been given out, but they're still waiting for that. So that's another thing. Like if you don't have any savings and the money hasn't gotten to you yet.
Yeah, and there's no safety net here. So people like, it's like people that are already suffering that are just going to, that's really sad.
And that was probably a good point to lead into the next question, because I know you're an American citizen now, and
I'm a dual citizen.
You're a dual citizen and a Dutch citizen.
Yeah.
And that does not mean that you're an expert on the cultures of either, but you can speak from your own firsthand experience. So I want first maybe to talk about how your family is dealing with things. Your family is near Amsterdam. Is that right?
My parents are near Amsterdam, and then I have a sister and her family. They live in the south, and I have a brother who has a girlfriend. They live in the north.
Okay, right. So you've got
kind of spread out, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And are they? I guess, and they're feeling safe. They haven't had it, or.
So they're not testing very much at all in the Netherlands. So my brother's girlfriend had all the symptoms, and her father did too, and she's even like short of breath and stuff. So she just kind of assumed that she had it, but so you don't know, I guess.
Right. So maybe we could jump into that a little bit more, because you said you're pretty sure several of your friends over there have had it. But they're not testing much, which I find a little bit interesting, because I saw how much Germany is testing like insane, and I feel like they're quite I feel like a progressive.
I don't actually know like what the science behind, or like the reasoning behind the not testing a lot is, but they're only testing people that are like in the hospital being really sick, I think. Right. I think it might be just a supply issue, just like in the US. They don't have enough testing supplies. And,
do you think do you want to comment at all on the because there have been deaths and stuff like that, but do you think
it's definitely I think for a while the Netherlands was like in the like top 10 of countries in the world. So for a small country like that, they definitely had it. They have a lot of cases and deaths also, which also like people who die of corona without ever being tested are not registered as deaths. So you don't even really know any of the numbers, but they're on an intelligent lockdown is what it's called. Which I think like a lot of countries are just saying stay home, don't go anywhere, because that's the easiest message to give to people. Like that, everyone understands staying home, but they in the Netherlands they went with the approach of like, you can stay home, but shops are open, but then just like stay 1.5 meters apart from each other. And then right now they're also saying kids are less likely to spread the virus, so kids can hang out with each other. They're opening elementary schools and like playgrounds and stuff.
But they did close schools for a little while.
They did. And high schools are still closed. Because most kids in the Netherlands walk or bike to school. So in high schools, people take public transport and stuff, so that's why they keep that closed a little longer, I guess.
Do you want to? So you were mentioning that there's not as many ICU kind of units.
But this is, I'm just gonna say, like, it's hard when you're like talking as like a representative of a whole country just because you live somewhere. But I just have like interesting philosophical thoughts about like the different approaches in different countries. And I've noticed that I think the Netherlands has a overall different approach on like healthcare. Like in the US, the focus is very much on like length of life, like have people stay alive as long as possible, no matter what the cost it's a lot about quality of life. And I read an article that there's way less ICU beds in the Netherlands because people who are really old are often not sent to the ICU because that wouldn't like improve their quality of life. And it's like, well, you're really old and you're getting sick. Maybe this is the end, I guess.
Also, I guess if you live in the Netherlands, like the quality of life is basically the best in the world, right? Like, I mean, I haven't lived. That's me just reading about people on their bikes everywhere, and like the healthcare is really good, and I think
especially if you compare it to like a lot of other, it's definitely not the best in the world, but there's a way better safety net than the US, and there is overall, I think like there's good access to healthcare for everyone.
That's what I was going to say. So if anyone maybe, and also we mentioned euthanasia is legal in the Netherlands. It's one of many things in the Netherlands which is legal. So that I find kind of interesting too. So perhaps there's a little bit of a, and I wonder if that's the Dutch philosophy in some kind of ways about, but I mean, I have not been there. I'm not an expert, but
I feel like maybe, but it's easy to like take like a philosophy out like this out of context and be like, well, basically they're killing all old people in the Netherlands and they don't care about old people. Or like the other way around, like in the US they don't care about quality of life. But there is a difference in philosophy, I guess. Like they don't let people live at all costs. And that's something that people are like, I feel like very often people don't even want to talk about it. And it's a subject to talk about. Like, is this worth it to continue?
Well, I mean, and
which is basically what they're saying. Like, sorry.
No.
What they're saying, like when Italy was hit really hard, they were saying they had to make choices, like who goes to the ICU and who doesn't. And I guess maybe that was already sort of happening in the Netherlands.
Right. So in Italy, maybe this is an interesting concept. Like maybe they're suddenly introducing the idea of triaging, but maybe that was kind of. I'll have to read a little bit more about it, but I do think it's an interesting topic, and it is a controversial one, and it doesn't even matter if you're comparing cultures. It's about asking what does it mean to have a meaningful life, I guess. And it's a big question. It is also hard because, I mean, there are plenty of examples of people who are really like in their like 50s even, who some didn't have pre-existing conditions, and
I know it's definitely that, like it's definitely not only old people dying, and even more in the US, I think, and they haven't really figured out why. In some people, more young people die. Some places, more young people die than others. But also, like if you're recovering from cancer and you just got there, and then you're still immune compromised, and then this like I definitely think that we should shelter in place right now. I don't know if that was clear in my
well, that's what you've been doing. And I think it's good. I think it's good, and I mean it is and I wonder perhaps that maybe part of the issues is just healthcare systems. Like robust healthcare systems mean that the citizens are healthier and maybe less vulnerable, and health systems that everyone has access to. It was so interesting talking to the nurse that I talked to who worked for the NHS, and just the fact that people just get to leave and don't get billed. Because that doesn't even, I have to copay in Australia. Like there's usually, I very rarely go to the doctor and don't have to pay something. So, and I mean, I'm so grateful that it's still not as much as what might happen if I was in the United States. So they're all connected, I think. I think a lot of different issues are connected, and we're now being forced to examine them, from the travel issue to the health issue to the economy. It's big.
Yeah, it is.
Is there anything else you want to add before I let you go?
I feel like, but I know I just said it, but when you were saying like there's also young people getting sick and stuff, I talked a lot about like how in the Netherlands they're like maybe less concerned about really old people. I do think that, like, personally, I think it's very important that right now we should not like get too excited about numbers leveling and all run outside, and it's hard, but like I think we need to hold on a little longer, especially here in the US, the numbers being so high. Just like hold on a little longer so that we can actually like, because, and I also like care about a lot, like there's a lot of old people that I really care about that I don't want to get sick and like
I think it's just a smart idea right now to treat everybody as they might have it. And even in Australia now there's even people talking about elimination, which is insane, because it's like,
what do you mean?
Like the elimination of the virus, like getting numbers so low, like that possibly like it would just mean that we couldn't leave and no one could come in unless they quarantine for 2 weeks. But even with those very low, incredible numbers, I still think,
it's just hard because we scientists just know so little about it yet. I feel like we need to wait a little longer until we know more. We know why in some places it's so much worse than other places, and why sometimes young people die without conditions.
Pre-existing conditions.
You think I would know the word by now. It's late.
Yes, it's late, and you have had a long day. I really appreciate you chatting with me, Haya, and I think you've made pretty clear, like you guys are staying in and being cautious and not moving to China and not leaving the house and I think it's a really interesting perspective. I'm so interested to see. I hope that there'll be some silver linings to this when it all finishes. So
Thank you.
Thanks, Haya. I'm just going to find the stop recording button there.